I was born in Kolkata, India, and I came over to Britain when I was 7 years old. My mother was a doctor, so she spoke fluent English. It was on the strength of my mother's skills that we were able to come over. I went to Beijing in '78, and that was shortly after China had opened up to the West. This program came out called English on Sunday. By '86, clearly the West started getting very interested in China. The head of the education department was asked to head up the English channel, and he said, "Wenlan, why don't you come over and help out?" So I transferred over to this new English channel, which you now know as CCTV International. Gradually I thought, well, actually, the work behind the camera is really interesting too. And so I started doing a lot of editing. We got to a stage where clearly it made sense for me to actually go out and start directing. Was it in '86 or '87? The Queen went to China for a state visit, and she was asking about English on Sunday, and she said, and so how many viewers do you have? And I said, I'm afraid, Mum, we don't have very many because it is only an English language program, about 80 million. And she said, aha! and the person who was accompanying her at the moment, who was in fact the British Council lead, said, do you know, I don't think I've ever seen the Queen laugh like that. So that was a big high moment for me. I ended up working for the British government, and so in those at that time I was working on this program called UK Today. So another interesting paradox, you know, having worked on news and current affairs in China with the last program, I was now working on newsy current affairs type magazine program for Britain as well. My mother was actually born in India because her parents went over to India quite a long time ago. This was part of the latter movement of Chinese migration from the southern province of Guangdong to India because of drought, hunger, poverty, etc. I had always very much wanted to do some sort of documentary about this particular event in history and the building up of this community in India. I think the most rewarding thing about that is that the children of the people whom we interviewed, they discovered things about their parents and their grandparents that they had not even dreamt had happened. When I started working on documentaries, whether that was for independent companies, for the BBC, or for myself now, for the most part they've been about China, some aspect of China. I particularly am interested in history and anthropological subjects and social issues. Those are the three main areas. So I've really turned 180 degrees now, you know, from having worked in China where I was introducing Western culture to Chinese audiences. I've now completely changed over and trying to introduce Chinese things and culture to British audiences.